base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
2, 1, 0, 0. Liftoff. American return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, roger. Go for deploy.
Thanks everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
And there it is. You're looking at the American-made rocket and spacecraft that will return American astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil for the first time since the retirement of the space shuttle, last flown nearly 9 years ago. Today, we're giving it another shot with our partners at SpaceX. We will mark a new first in NASA's storied history and usher in the commercial crew era of American spaceflight.
At SpaceX, and we are so honored to be NASA's partner in returning humans to space from the shores of Kennedy Space Center. 10 years ago, we sent the Dragon that's displayed right behind us on its first orbital demonstration flight, and I speak for all of us here at SpaceX when I say we could not be more excited to finally be sending humans to the International Space Station. Dragon and Falcon 9 together have years of operational experience, or what we refer to as flight heritage. SpaceX has successfully completed 22 flights of Dragon to and from orbit since 2010, and that includes 21 trips to the International Space Station. And to get us where we are today, not only have we conducted thousands of hours of testing, but we've also enhanced and added a number of safety features to Dragon.
One of the most important safety features on Crew Dragon is the launch escape system. It's a huge advancement in the safety of human spaceflight, and SpaceX was able to demonstrate the system in 2 important tests. The first one coming back in 2015 with the pad abort test, which we're watching some video back from right now. And then a little bit more recently, last January of this year, the in-flight abort test. Dragon's launch escape system is outfitted with 8 Super Draco engines that are integrated directly into the spacecraft body. This enables Dragon to separate from Falcon 9 and carry astronauts to safety in case of an emergency on the launch pad or all the way up to orbit.
And in addition to the launch escape system, SpaceX has completed over 80 parachute tests, which includes nearly 30 tests of just the upgraded Mark III parachutes that's flying on today's vehicle. And that's to ensure a safe landing back on Earth, even in the unlikely event that one of those 4 main parachutes fails.
And we can't forget the significance of our first demonstration mission just last year, which itself was an end-to-end flight test to and from the International Space Station, just no actual humans on board.
Suit up is just beginning now, and there is our first look in the room. There is astronaut Doug Hurley getting into his spacesuit, and he's being helped by one of the suit technicians there. So this is our first look in the room. Again, Doug Hurley, he has flown into space 2 times before. He was the pilot on STS-127 and 135. And there's a wider shot. You can see astronaut Bob Behnken also in view now. Bob is to the right of your screen. Closer look at the veteran Marine Corps fighter pilot and spaceflight pioneer.
Excited?
Very excited. Yeah, very excited.
You feel ready? Still pumped?
Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX Demo 2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final Space Shuttle mission. Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
It's a life-changing process in so many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects. Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration. When the engines shut off and you go from, in the case of the shuttle, you go from 3 Gs to 0 Gs instantaneously and things start floating. And I remember distinctly just thinking, what just happened? To see a rocket launch in person is, it's a pretty emotional event. I remember the first time I saw a shuttle launch, and it was amazing. And then when I saw a shuttle launch with my wife on it, that is quite the emotional experience. My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station. We are doing the first crewed flight for NASA and for SpaceX. So this is the test flight to prove end-to-end from launch to docking to ISS operations and then entry, descent, and landing. This will be the first time the Dragon had a crew on board, and so there's a myriad of objectives we want to achieve for this mission. SpaceX has been responsible for design and essentially making this vehicle what it is. What the astronauts bring to the table is the crew vehicle interface. What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work. To be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station, talking together, working through the challenges that simulators typically throw at you. It was really neat being part of it. It's just been an incredible undertaking to see where we've come just in the last 5 years that Bob and I have been a part of this, and to be, shortly flying to the International Space Station with the Crew Dragon. It overwhelms you to think about how many people have, in some way, shape, or form, touched this program and this vehicle to get us to this point. And we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into this to make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dreams come true for that.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the Commercial Crew Program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point. It's been a huge amount of sacrifice and time away from home, but the fruits of our labor are coming to fruition.
Introduction to the Joint Operations Commander for Demo 2, you see to the left of your screen there, former Air Force flight test engineer Bob Behnken.
When you go through the launch day preparations, there's a lot of moments that kind of stand out to you. One is the kind of the celebratory piece of it, which is that you're walking out of the suit up room and getting in the vehicle that's going to take you to the launch pad. When you close the hatch, that's really when Doug and I are in the vehicle, and it's our vehicle, and we're really in control of the mission at that point.
Test pilots, their task proved that man could fly into orbit around the Earth and return live and well to talk about it.
There's always a balance of managing risk as you go forward to execute a test point and figuring out a way to collect the data. We hear a sound. Okay, is that sound an expected sound? Or we see a light, is that light an expected light? What's the source of it? Does it sync up with something else that's going on or not? So trying to dissect all of that in real time in your head is, a lot of things happen like that on launching of a vehicle.
From St. Anne, Missouri, he is an Air Force colonel and flight test engineer. He flew aboard Space Shuttle Endeavour twice. Introducing NASA astronaut Bob Behnken.
My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000. Went through the training program, primarily focused on the Space Shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, the second time was definitely different than the first time. you can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get? Am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now. It's been really interesting, I think, for both my wife and I to have gone through the process of seeing each other launch in space. I've seen her take that risk and had it be in front of her, and I've done that to her. And there's just something different about watching a rocket launch when there are people on board. You feel a little bit differently about the pit of your stomach, and I can only tell you it's multiplied significantly when it's somebody that you know, and then somebody, of course, that's a family member. It's even multiplied more.
For me personally, as a spouse, watching everything that Bob has put into this over the last 5 years, the dedication that he's shown, the perseverance is pretty special. For both of us, though, the way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. Really, my role on the Demo 2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them. Through years of the NASA team, I'm helping to share that experience and teaching them the lessons that we've learned by going through this. Now there's another capability in the U.S. besides NASA to operate something of this magnitude. When is the last time humans launched on a new vehicle? Certainly on the American side, it's been several decades. Now we're in a time when we've got multiple vehicles under development. It's a great time from a space exploration time frame just to see all that happening, and it's because of this nurturing of the environment, being able to pull in a wider group of people who can contribute towards human spaceflight. It's a super cool time. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles in the launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
I think one of the things that was important in the development of the suit was to make it easy to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care of itself from there. So the suit is really kind of one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit-seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
Our spacesuit is completely designed in-house. It's built here in Hawthorne, California, in the same building as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom-made for each crew member, and that is to optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to innovate, and we wanted it to look inspiring, but first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit, provides them hearing protection, and the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. When the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seat. And the umbilical is providing everything that the suit needs. So it provides the avionics or electronics for communications, is providing the air to cool the suit, and then it also provides gas when needed to pressurize the suit. So it's really a single point that lets the suit do all the things that it needs to do. We designed the helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different functions. Obviously, it's protecting the crew's head and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit, but it also houses the microphones as well as the valves that are regulating pressure in the suit. We had to design the gloves so that they would work with the touchscreens, but the gloves also still had to do a number of other things like the rest of the suit. So all of those things had to come together within the glove. It'll be obviously really amazing to see Bob and Doug in their flight suits. And I think one of the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware, it's not just a suit, it's a very personal thing. It's Bob's suit and it's Doug's suit. And so seeing the two of them in their suits using it in flight will be just a really amazing thing.
Absolutely. And we are looking at a live picture now of Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley walking down that hallway in the astronaut crew quarters. We just saw Doug wave at the screen, and they're just turning the corner, getting inside that elevator. And this, you can't see it from here, but there is a banner hanging there. You can kind of see it in the back. There's a banner hanging on the wall of the elevator with the signatures of all the people who worked on this mission. So it was really important for them to hang that up in there so Bob and Doug could see it. There the doors are opening.
Here they come.
Great. And there they are, NASA astronauts.
Small crowd, but big cheers.
NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, Doug on the left, Bob on the right, waving to the crowd there to cheer them on.
You can hear them.
Let's light this candle, I agree. Launch America! Bye, guys.
That umbilical is being connected to the suit to provide cooling air to the astronauts while they're on the way to the pad. And those Falcon wing doors are closing.
Super sleek.
Let's see that prominent NASA meatball.
Now, as we watch the convoy begin their journey to Pad 39A, to our SpaceX and NASA family who over the years made this mission a reality and who have worked this launch campaign up to this point, we have you here in our thoughts.
And we wish every one of you could be here to see this up close. But we want you to be part of this journey regardless of where you call home and regardless of where you're watching from today. And so for the next few minutes, we are going to follow the convoy, but highlight those whose words and hands and thoughts built all that we see here today. We hope all of you watching can feel the pride each of these NASA and SpaceX team members has for this drive out to the pad. And that group of people, I mean, we saw all those different groups of folks from NASA and SpaceX, from all different walks of life that have come together to make this happen. And that was just a small fraction of them. Look at that shot. That is so cool.
Wow. A little thumbs up from, I guess that's from Bob.
Yeah, and you know, it took a little bit of creativity to get this shot to happen. We have a chase vehicle that's on the other side of the road, which is of course shut down, so we could get a camera in there and follow them out. So we are really thankful to Kennedy Space Center Protective Forces for helping us make that happen, so we could see Bob and Doug all the way out to the launch pad. And they're listening to some tunes too, I heard, right, Lauren?
Yeah. There are at least 3 songs on their playlist that are super interesting. The first is AC/DC's Back in Black. You know that one.
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
Right. Another one that they're listening to is the elevator music from the Blues Brothers film, The Girl from Ipanema. And of course, they are also listening to the Star Spangled Banner, the Army French Horns version.
And we, you know, as astronauts, truly appreciate all the support, all the social media feeds, and we think about, you know, our families. You know, we saw Megan and Karen there with their sons, wishing Doug and Bob well wishes and Godspeed as they head off in these Teslas to launch pad 39A that launched the Apollo astronauts. And I think, you know, this is just one of those moments where everyone in this country is coming together to wish them well, to get them to space safely. It's a really great day.
And they are just now on Saturn Causeway. They just made that right turn onto Saturn Causeway. So to the right of the screen, that building is the Operations and Support Building 2. And on the left, it's out of view right now, is the Vehicle Assembly Building, that iconic building that processed the Space Shuttle and Saturn V rocket also.
That's where that mobile transporter takes out, used to take out the Apollo Saturn V rockets and the Space Shuttle. It's just an incredible machine.
And where they're passing right now, I mean, if we were to run outside, we could wave because we are off to the right of your screen there at the press site where you see a group of media there. So from this point, they've still got about 3 miles to go from here.
I'll see you guys later. I'll be back in a minute.
You're gonna go hop in. And obviously, it's not just Bob and Doug's Tesla. There's a number of cars in that convoy. They're being escorted by Kennedy Space Center Protective Forces and also SpaceX security. They have a flight surgeon there with them.
This storied launch pad, which has been the beginning point for so many firsts, is the perfect backdrop for today's historic launch that marks a new first and a new era in human spaceflight.
And here's a view from our gantry near the Launch Complex 39A. So we've got another view of the convoy going by here.
The other is the Falcon Support Building. It's where all of our offices are. In hangar, we process Falcon Heavy in there. There are other boosters in that hangar as well. And the rocket and Dragon that is on the pad right now was put together, or rather finally integrated inside of that hangar and then rolled out to that pad to go up vertical.
And there it is. That shot really gives you a sense of the scale of the Falcon 9 rocket. Those Teslas look teeny, teeny, tiny. Of course, we saw them pull up in the Teslas, and there they are. Looks like they've already gotten out of the car, and they are walking up to the elevator that will carry them all the way up to the 255-foot level, and then they'll have a couple of steps to get up to the level where the crew access arm is. There they are, taken in the sight, craning to see the top of the Falcon 9 rocket. It's 230 feet tall if you round up, and then Crew Dragon is another 27 feet from the bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone. So when you're out there in person, it's really hard to describe just how large it is.
Look at them getting excited. They're ready to get in the vehicle, get in the elevator, and make it to the top. There's some FOD. He's picking up foreign object debris.
Appreciate that. They're also wearing FOD covers on their shoes, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We want to make sure that they don't, track the inside of Dragon when they go in. And so right before they enter the vehicle, they'll remove the FOD covers off of their boots. Feel so honored to be able to launch from here. Oh, here they are. That's a really fast elevator.
Yeah.
I know, it really zips. That took them up. And we should hear a call any moment that the crew has arrived at the pad as they make their way up the stairs, and they're headed to the crew access arm now. It's hard to tell from this angle, but there's actually a phone right here, and I can't tell if it's Bob or Doug that's using the phone right now. But Leland, can you explain the significance of that? It's the same phone that was there during the shuttle days.
Yeah, you get a chance to talk to maybe friends or family that you haven't had maybe couldn't come to the launch. In this case, it's quite a few people, but just to have that last moment to talk to someone before you get in the vehicle. It's a beautiful view.
Shortly after we begin to regularly fly NASA astronauts to and from the space station, SpaceX will also begin flying private passengers to station and beyond using Dragon.
That's right. NASA is enabling up to 2 private astronaut missions to visit the station each year, just as part of our support of the economy in low Earth orbit. It's one of the many ways NASA's working to just open up access to outer space for companies to manufacture products in microgravity, for any new commercial modules in space, and really just to enable more people to be able to explore the stars firsthand.
And the more people out there exploring the stars, the closer we become to becoming a multiplanetary species. Earlier, we showed you a first-hand look at where you would train if you were to fly with us on board Dragon, but now let's take a peek inside of the spacecraft itself.
Intuitive to know what we need to do at any given moment in time. When I think about comfort for the astronauts, it's really every aspect of how you could interact with the spaceship that comes to mind. We have 3 different seat sizes. We even go so far as molding the foam around the astronaut's body so that there's not any pressure points, and it's just generally a pleasurable journey to space. Dragon is a spaceship that's all about safety and reliability. We designed it to be 2 fault tolerant, which means that any 2 things could fail. So I could lose a flight computer and a thruster, and I could still bring the crew back home safely. We also added a launch escape system. If anything goes wrong on ascent, the crew can get away from Falcon and get picked up safely. I've worked on Dragon since 2012. When I see Dragon lift off, I think I'm going to feel a buildup of emotion of 8 years of working with some of the best engineers and technicians across the country that put their heart and mind into making this incredible moment happen for everybody.
Right, as Leland and Lauren were mentioning earlier, they do have stuff on their suits to protect from FOD, and they have FOD covers on their boots, as they mentioned, as well as on their umbilical port on their suits, and that needs to be removed before they can ingress.
Minutes. The crew has arrived at the White Room, and its ingress is in progress on schedule.
Just listening into the nets and hearing those updates live. Yes, once the FOD check is complete, they can enter. And as they climb into Dragon, they will buckle themselves in and attach their umbilicals to their suits. And as you can see, the suit techs are there to help them.
Minutes as the clock continues to count down, all systems are go for launch.
All right, thanks, John I. And as we watch Bob and Doug get buckled into their seats, I'm joined once again by SpaceX's Jessica Jensen, just to kind of walk through everybody what made Dragon a 21st century spacecraft. So first off, thanks for coming in today. I know you got to come in for a launch. That's always tough.
Of course.
Walk us through again kind of Dragon's life history. I mean, we have one in a clean room pretty soon right behind us. Walk us how we got to where we are today to have Bob and Doug climbing into that spacecraft.
Sure. So SpaceX was founded to make life multiplanetary. That was why Elon started the company back in 2002. But also when he founded the company, we were a very small company for several years. And so we had to look for opportunities to, hey, how do you go from being a small company to actually putting people into orbit? So when NASA came out with the need to fly cargo to and from the International Space Station, we jumped on that because we said, hey, first, not only is carrying cargo to and from the space station cool, I bet we could actually then fly people to the International Space Station. And hey, for 8 years now, we've been flying cargo.
Yeah.
And then now we have transitioned over into flying crew and cargo together. So that's basically been the evolution of Dragon, and it's been awesome.
And I know when we see Falcon 9, we get to talk a lot about reusability. Everyone is very familiar with the first stage coming back down and how cool that looks. Dragon is also designed with some reusability. In fact, you've flown Dragon multiple times, or you've flown Dragons multiple times to the space station. How does reusability factor into Dragon's life cycle?
Yeah, so I'll actually talk a little bit about both, because one thing I think everyone always thinks about reusability and, hey, it saves money, or that's great, but reusability actually improves your reliability. So when we get Falcons back and when we get Dragons back, either after one mission or multiple mission, we can do all these detailed inspections on them. And that's super important because when you fly a vehicle, you can only have so many sensors on it. You can't put a sensor, every single inch of a rocket or a spacecraft.
And there's already way more than I think anybody realizes.
Exactly. But so, especially for rockets that wind up in the ocean, some people don't have any idea of what they actually went through. So the fact that we get all the hardware back, we were able to inspect literally every square inch of it and make small design changes that actually improve reliability for the whole fleet. So even though Bob and Doug are on a brand new rocket and a brand new spacecraft, those spacecraft are actually more reliable based on the knowledge we've learned from reusability.
We've walked people through a lot of the new systems on Dragon. What are just some of the cool things that are maybe beneath the surface that people don't know about with Dragon?
So I think one of the coolest things is the autonomous docking system. And what that is it's basically we have, GPS sensors on Dragon, but then we also have cameras and imaging sensors such as a LiDAR on basically the nose cone or the front part of Dragon as it's approaching the space station. And all these sensors are feeding data back to our flight computer to say, hey, how far away am I from the space station? What's my relative velocity to the space station? And then that feeds into the flight computer, which has algorithms written by our engineers to say, okay, based on how far away you are in your rates, here's how you fire the thrusters to most effectively get to the docking target. And I think that's just super cool.
Well, I mean, we're all waiting for our cars to drive ourselves to work, and for Bob and Doug, that's exactly what it's doing for them.
Exactly. And what I think is so cool is the computer does this just like flawlessly. It's easy. When I tried to do it, I failed miserably. I tried to dock Dragon to the ISS 3 times and I failed. Fourth time I got it.
Good morning.
And I will tell the public out there that on our website, we actually have a Dragon ISS simulator, so you yourself can try and fire the thrusters and see how well you do. Maybe I'm just a bad driver, but I think the flight computer does a really good job.
I think we all had fun with it. All right, well, we are just starting to hear. They're going to start up those comm checks with Bob and Doug.
CDR, PLT, comm check, umbilical.
So let's listen in.
CDR, loud and clear. PLT, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check complete. Stand by for ground station comm check.
Jessica, thank you so much for walking us through some of the really cool updates, the upgrades. Did you have any other cool stuff besides?
Let's see. So I don't know if you guys can see, but we have the Dragon clean room here. And one of the coolest things is it is right on the main floor of our main building. So thousands of employees walk by here all the time and get to see Dragon in its final processing before it goes to the Cape. On Wednesday, the Crew 1 capsule was in here. It looked almost done. It looks a little empty right now, but that's because that capsule went off into our separate test facility for its final propulsion checks. So we do leak checks and things there, and we do that in a separate facility just because it's high pressure testing. And then the vehicle will come back here, get its final thermal protection system put on, and then it will ship off to Cape Canaveral and get ready to launch 4 astronauts to the International Space Station.
I mean, what's it like to see it? Because when you see the first initial pressure vessel, it looks nothing like the final thing. So what's it like to just kind of watch it go through and you just see little bits get added on, and then the next thing you know, it's a whole spacecraft?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so amazing. I'm so impressed. You know, when you look at a machine, you're like, how does this ever get built? How do people ever do this? And it really is just step by step, one piece at a time. Each piece has its critical function, and you get to watch that being built right in front of your eyes every day when you come to work.
SpaceX, we
an
are ready
engineer, whatever
and
you do
initiating
here.
seat rotation.
Dragon copies.
And we just heard the seat rotations about to begin. So, Jessica, thank you so much. Cool facts about Dragon for everyone to listen in on, and we can see the seats start to rotate now. Pretty soon, Bob and Doug will be in their launch configuration, and they'll be ready to go. We can see the seats slowly start to rotate. Again, they're in this down position just to make it easier to climb in and out of Dragon. They'll rotate to this launch position to put their backs a little bit more parallel to the ground. It makes taking the G-force a little bit easier for the crew on the way uphill, but most importantly, positions those touchscreens directly in front of them, which is just their gateway into Dragon.
Dragon, SpaceX, seats are in the launch position.
We copy.
for it, but you are so prepared when you go. You just have total confidence. You know that you are very well trained for what you're going to do. You have an outstanding team on the ground supporting you, and that is so important to have that ground support as you climb into that vehicle. You know that they've done their very best to ensure your safety and a successful mission.
It's good to know that all that preparation leads to that confidence. By the way, just an update operationally, they're getting ready to close the hatch door. You can see on your screen there, the workers there are getting ready to get that closed.
There is another live look at Launch Complex 39A, and we have had the opportunity to share with you a lot about the SpaceX Crew Dragon sitting on top of Falcon 9, a lot about the crew themselves, and the significance of today as the official return, we hope, of human launch capability to American shores. But we would be remiss if we did not explain why this pad 39A is hallowed ground.
We're go, swing tight, we're go. Altitude, velocity, light.
Many of NASA's storied missions began their daring journey from the exact same spot on Earth. Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center. This massive structure of steel and concrete has cradled rockets and guided each on their fiery ascent to space for over 50 years. There can be no launch without a launch pad, and this hallowed ground has a history greater than any other. Having evolved and been reshaped for each new era of spaceflight, it's alive with a heartbeat as strong as the first. Launchpad 39A came to life under the direction of project engineer Harry May as NASA ramped up its efforts to achieve an unprecedented calling.
Why, some say the moon. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain?
In 1962, Earth-moving machines sculpted its massive pyramid base to a height of 40 feet. Then, concrete was poured to hold it in place. To launch the world's first moon rocket, engineers cut a flame trench nearly the length of 2 football fields down the middle of the mound. It was then lined with heat-resistant bricks to deflect 7.5 million pounds of earth-rattling thrust, first felt on Apollo 8. Less than a year later, Apollo 11 launched from Pad 39A. And hundreds of millions of people around the world watched as it landed on the moon 3 days later. Nearly a decade after this Apollo era, 39A again took center stage with a new, one-of-a-kind spacecraft, the Space Shuttle. Millions of pounds of additional steel for surface structures transformed the look, but not the purpose: human spaceflight. In all, 82 space shuttles blasted off from 39A until the very last.
Start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
With the fleet retired, demolition crews removed the shuttle-era hardware to clear the way for NASA's monumental decision to lease this historic launch site to the private company SpaceX. Today, its sleek and modern design supports a family of rockets that has advanced the commercial age of American spaceflight. Now, 50 years after it first sent humans to the moon, this historic spaceport stands ready for the next wave of human exploration.
Well, I'm in charge of entry and landing for Starship,
which is SpaceX's next rocket after Falcon 9. And before that, I worked for many years on the same thing for Falcon. So hopefully today you'll see another one of those landings on a drone ship.
Awesome. And speaking of that, what role does reusability play in getting people to the moon and Mars in the future?
Well, it's really all about making human space flight affordable. And what you want for that is a 100% reusable rocket. Now, Falcon is only partially reusable, but Starship is going to be 100% reusable. And we've actually already started working with NASA on using Starship to send astronauts to the surface of the moon for the first time since 1972. Not only that, Starship will be refuelable on orbit, and the combination of those two things will let us send people basically anywhere in the solar system with more payload for less money than I think people have really been contemplating. I think for the first time we can seriously talk about things like lunar bases, or what SpaceX cares about most, a self-sustaining civilization on Mars.
Right. So what you're saying is I will have an opportunity soon to get on board one of those spaceships.
I very much hope so. Yeah.
So speaking of reusability and landing, I know you mentioned Starship will be refuelable in orbit, but Falcon does come back and land back on Earth. What are the challenges with actually landing on the moon and landing on a planet like Mars?
Yeah, well, you can't land like a plane, because the moon and the Mars either have no atmosphere or have a very thin atmosphere, and even if you could, there's no runway that someone's built for you. So that's one of the reasons that we do propulsive landing on Falcon, because we want to figure out how to do propulsive landing. That fundamental architecture works on basically any planet. If you have no atmosphere like the moon, you do a propulsive landing burn all the way. If you have a thick atmosphere like Earth, you let the atmosphere slow you down as you float down and do a short landing burn at the end. And for Mars, which has an atmosphere but a very thin one, you do something in between the two.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really difficult, and I'm sure there's been a lot of effort put into that. Can you tell us anything about what we're working on now to get us to a point where we can do a landing like that in such a harsh environment?
Yeah, so figuring out propulsive landing is really the key part of it. But what people may not realize is that every time we bring Falcon back, we do something called an entry burn. So just before we hit the atmosphere, we light the engines to slow the rocket down. That happens high up where the air is very thin, and it just so happens that the conditions there are very similar to what a Mars landing burn would look like. So even though it takes months to get to Mars, and you can only do it every 2 years when the planets line up, we effectively get to practice Mars propulsive landing every time we bring Falcon back, including, hopefully, today.
Wow. And as you mentioned, every time we bring Falcon back, we learn something new. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we learn after the vehicle has returned and we're able to check out the vehicle?
Yeah, so Jessica actually mentioned this earlier, that I talked about how cost is really one benefit of reusability, but reliability is the other benefit. I mean, imagine that you do all this planning to send a rocket up through the rigors of launch and re-entry, but you don't get to see the rocket afterwards. And what we would like to do with the reusability, what we've been able to do with Falcon 9, is see the rocket, inspect it, and because of that, we've been able to correlate our models pre-flight to what actually happens when you launch, re-enter, and land a rocket.
Right, instead of just guessing what happened to the vehicle after it's left. That is amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us today.
And while there is not a ton of cargo on today's mission, Dragon is carrying 2 very special payloads, aside from Bob and Doug, of course. The first of those payloads is a series of custom art pieces entitled Humankind by Los Angeles artist Tristan Eaton. These indestructible, double-sided paintings made from gold, brass, and aluminum celebrate how far humanity has come, as well as how far we still have to go. It includes a beautiful homage to the Saturn V rocket, as well as a nod to Bob and Doug's current ride to space. And you can find more images and information about these pieces on SpaceX's social channels. Next, in the spirit of inspiring the next generation of explorers.
Reminder on hold and launch escape protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting launch auto sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will immediately abort the launch auto sequence and proceed to the launch abort auto sequence. Operators shall also advise launch director whether structural break or fire is imminent or occurring for Dragon manual escape flight rules. A reminder on fire alarm instructions. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators previously briefed will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personal safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. At this time, weather is go for launch.
You can see on the screen, we're inside T-minus 40, we're T-minus 44 minutes, 5 seconds. Crew access arm
retract has
away.
begun.
SpaceX launch director is giving the final brief to the crew. And we will be beginning propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes.
You know, the vibration, the experiences that we felt actually riding a real rocket, going through the fueling operation, that was a new experience for us. As you probably know, the space shuttle was fueled when the astronauts arrived. Doug and I went through the fueling operation on board Dragon, which was different from us, and so going through hearing the venting and the valve sounds and the little vibrations associated with that operation was a new experience for us.
Our go, and we are counting down for an on-time launch. Let's send it back over to Kennedy Space Center as the action begins to pick up on the pad.
Dragon, SpaceX, you are go for Section 7, close visors and arm launch escape system.
We will put Section 7 in work, visors coming close.
Ground operations teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure Dragon and Falcon 9 are both ready for liftoff. And we're continuing to get live views inside the capsule with Bob and Doug, and you're now also looking in firing room 4 down there at the Cape.
Once we hit T0 and a successful launch occurs, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon make their ascent until the Falcon 9 first and second stage separates and sends Dragon on its way to the space station.
And at this point, mission operators will prepare Dragon for on-orbit operations, where the vehicle will execute a series of burns that gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the space station, as you can see in this animation. And just after putting Dragon into the same orbital plane as the station, the teams will get ready for Dragon's approach and docking maneuvers.
The next Dragon will make its approach and actually dock with the space station. And this is a very different process from what we've seen with Dragon cargo deliveries in the past, which use a process called berthing. Berthing requires a spacecraft to approach the station and then stop so a crew member can maneuver the station's robotic arm to capture the spacecraft. Docking on this version of Dragon can be done autonomously with no crew on board the station. It's typically a faster process, both when arriving and leaving, but it does still require pinpoint accuracy to approach safely. Dragon will spend up to 120 days docked before preparing to return home. Following successful completion of Dragon's test objectives and cargo loading operations, the crew will close the cabin, perform final system checks, and configure the vehicle for undocking. Once the automated undocking sequence is complete, Dragon will complete 2 departure burns using its Draco engines, pushing it away from the space station.
And then next up on the trip, deorbit entry and landing, or splashdown, which is going to cover all the operations following that final departure maneuver. It's going to include events like the trunk separation, closing of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, and then eventually as they get into the atmosphere, the deployment of the drogue and the main parachutes, and all of that ends with splashdown right off the Florida coast. At that point, teams from SpaceX will move in with their recovery ship, grab the capsule out of the water, and work to get Bob and Doug out of Dragon after a successful mission in space.
In order to help you get ready for today's historic mission, know that we're with you, have an amazing flight, and enjoy those views of our beautiful planet.
Jay, it is absolutely our honor to be part of this huge effort to get the United States back in the launch business. We'll talk to you from orbit. Thank you.
Copy all. Thanks for those words.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. And so rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream. 20 seconds into flight, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds into this historic mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and look at them go.
Falcon power telemetry nominal.
M1D throttle down.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. We're in the throttle bucket. Reports say all systems are go.
Vehicle is supersonic.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
M1D throttle up.
We're throttling back up to full power as we're through max Q.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
And we heard that 1 Bravo call out. That's just the second abort zone that they're in. They'll continue to be on this until the first stage has done its job and they switch over to the second. At this point, Bob and Doug pulling about 2.3 Gs, 2.3 times the Earth's gravity, already moving at over 1,500 miles per hour.
We've heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. That's getting the MVAC engine ready to light. That'll come at about 2:44 into flight. Right now, everything continuing to look good. Next major event coming up is going to be the triple. We'll have main engine cutoff of the 9 first stage engines, stage separation.
Definitely felt that separation and heard the clunk associated with it. Feel some early 0G when we came off of the first stage, and we're getting ready to transition to the second stage, and then we felt that second stage light.
And then the Merlin vacuum engine starting. And so at that point, we go from roughly 3 Gs to 0 Gs for, I don't know, half a second probably. And then when that Merlin vacuum engine fires, then we start accelerating again for the next 5-6 minutes until we achieve orbit.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
All right, we have stage separation confirmed. The first stage beginning its flight back. The second stage being powered by that single Merlin 1D vacuum engine has ignited and is now carrying Bob and Doug into orbit. So they're going to continue under the power of this second stage.
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Which will cut off at SECO, or second engine cut off, at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds into today's flight. So a little over 5 minutes to go still on this second stage. You heard the call out 2 Alpha, so they're now in the longest abort zone that carries them all the way from about North Carolina up the eastern seaboard, almost to Canada. Things looking good though, getting good call outs, nominal propulsion on that second stage. Bob and Doug continuing to make their way into orbit.
Dragon SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Acquisition of signal in Bermuda.
SpaceX Dragon nominal trajectory.
All right, here in nominal trajectory, so Dragon pointed in the right direction, continuing to make their flight uphill. Heard acquisition of signal Bermuda. That's one of the other ground stations that they're using to get telemetry and data back from this spacecraft.
Stage 2 propulsion is still nominal.
little over 4 minutes, 40 seconds into the flight. Bob and Doug flying at more than 5,600 miles
Dragon
per hour.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Already almost 200 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center. Nominal trajectory continuing. And while they continue uphill, looks like we are getting a view of the first stage as well.
Up on your right screen, you can see that first stage with the grid fins deployed. It's making its way back to attempt to land on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, today. And we're just about a couple minutes away from the entry burn, and that's where 3 of the 9 Merlin engines do ignite to help slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. And then after the entry burn will be the landing burn, which is just a single engine
Dragon
burn.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
And you heard
Nominal
starting
trajectory.
chill for entry burn.
there's that call out. They are still on a nominal trajectory on Dragon, still on second stage, and that's that MVAC engine on second stage on your left screen. Again, on your right screen is that first stage booster coming back towards our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. We're about a minute away from entry burn.
Meanwhile, that second stage continuing to power Dragon into orbit. Again, if you're keeping an eye on that timer, that's going to continue to burn until 8 minutes and 44 seconds into flight. So a little over 2 minutes from now, we'll hear the call out SECO. It'll then be a little
Stage
under,
2 propulsion is still good.
A little over 3 minutes until Dragon physically separates from the second stage of the Falcon 9 after the upper
Dragon
stage gets a
SpaceX
chance.
nominal trajectory.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Continuing to check in with Bob and Doug as they are on a nominal trajectory. Just about 10 seconds away from that first stage, starting that entry burn on your right screen. We should be able to see that view live.
Stage 1 entry burn started.
And there is that entry burn beginning. This burn lasts about 36 seconds long.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
That entry burn continues. We're just about a minute away from SECO. We'll have a number of events all happen in rapid succession. It'll be the second engine cutoff.
Stage 1
we'll be
entry burn
looking
shut
for
down.
that stage 1 landing burn shortly after.
Actually, just within a few seconds of each other. Such a cool view on your left screen, seeing Bob and Doug on Dragon. Right now you can see the displays that they are seeing right now themselves.
Terminal guidance.
MVAC throttle step.
We are coming up 25 seconds or so away from SECO, or second engine cutoff.
This is also the point where Bob and Doug are experiencing their highest G-force. We're seeing the counter tick up to right about 1.8.
Copy, Shannon.
You heard Shannon, so that just means they're in their final abort zones. If they were to abort at this point, it would either be an abort to orbit or to land off the coast of Ireland. Standing by for second
Stage 1 landing
cutoff
startup.
confirmation.
MVAC throttle step. MVAC shut down.
Stage 1 landing learn.
Confirmation of SECO's second engine cutoff.
Now we are waiting for our first stage to make its way to our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You.
Dragon SpaceX nominal orbital insertion.
Didn't get confirmation, nominal
Dragon
orbital
copies,
insertion.
nominal orbital insertion.
And what you're seeing on your screen is a live view of our drone ship, where our first stage will be coming down. Looks like we lost that live view, but we'll wait for confirmation of that landing shortly here.
Falcon 9 first stage is successfully landed.
And there you can see on your screen, Falcon 9 has landed. This is the first Falcon 9 to carry humans to orbit, so very exciting for us. And as you can see on your right screen, Bob and Doug are still making their way to their targeted orbit.
M1D to recovery 1.
So exciting today.
M1D.
It doesn't stop.
It does not stop.
All right, we did hear again that call out, good orbital insertion, so that means Falcon 9 and Dragon right now exactly where they're supposed to be.
M1D to FRC on recovery 1.
And it's right at about 12 minutes when Dragon will separate. Looks like we saw a 0G indicator floating around there. I know Bob and Doug owe us a little bit about what exactly that is that they brought up with them.
And before separation, before Dragon initiates separation from the second stage, they do make sure to they do ensure that the vehicle is not spinning and is in good condition before we separate.
That's right, the upper stage does small attitude maneuver using some cold gas thrusters built into the rocket body itself.
Exactly, so we do expect that separation to occur in about a minute from now, but they do wait until they have full confirmation that it is ready to separate. Such cool views. I cannot get over this view that we are seeing right now. Bob and Doug on the right screen inside of Crew Dragon out in space.
Yeah, already 200 kilometers over planet Earth, or a little over 124 miles, traveling in excess of 2,700 meters. 27,000 meters per second, or about 16,000 miles per hour. So again, we're just standing by. That separation event should be coming up shortly. Then they'll begin a series of checks on the Draco thrusters that are going to be used to maneuver and then power Dragon on its flight to the International Space Station. Standing by for separation.
Expected loss of signal, wallows.
Sounds like we had an expected LOS loss of signal with one of the ground stations. Waiting for confirmation now of that.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
There is a great view right in front of you of Dragon separating.
Separation confirmed.
And there's that call out. Dragon is now officially making its way to the International Space Station today.
Dragon SpaceX with that separation call. We have a few words for you from our Falcon 9 team.
Standing by.
Dragon, Chief Engineer on Dragon to Ground. Bob Doug, on behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
Thanks, Paula. Congratulations to you and the F9 team for the first human ride for Falcon 9. And it was incredible. Appreciate all the hard work, and thanks for the great ride to space.
Copy all.
Paula and Mike, proud of you guys and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for what you've done for us today, putting America back into low Earth orbit from the Florida coast.
Copy all. Good luck. Godspeed.
I highly encourage you all to check out the simulation that we have online where you can test out your skills at steering Dragon and docking it to the International Space Station. That website is iss.sim.spacex.com. And like I said, you can test your own skills at flying Dragon.
And Dragon SpaceX, one additional note, no need to reply, but the next burn will be the boost burn. And that's in about 1 hour and 23 minutes per your timeline. And Dragon SpaceX, for awareness, we're back on board.
Dragon copies. Welcome aboard.
All right, so that was the confirmation that we should be getting camera views inside the cabin once again. And there we got them. So we can see they're looking at their touch screens, preparing for this manual test that will be coming up in about 30 seconds. What a sight. I love that we can see right over their shoulders. We can see the screens.
Yeah, it's just incredible. If you keep your eye on the displays, the one on the far left will look very familiar to you if you've done that automated, or not, if you've done the manual docking demo that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Well, everyone, welcome aboard Dragon. My name is Doug. Next to me is Bob. You probably know him. We're so glad to be with you this evening and welcome you on board Dragon. Got a couple things we want to talk about first before we kind of show you around. The first is kind of a tradition we've had over the years with spacecraft going way back to the Mercury era. And then a tradition that's been carried on ever since with all our space vehicles, including the Soyuz. We're given the honor to name this capsule. I know most of you at SpaceX especially know it as Capsule 206, but I think all of us thought that we could maybe do a little bit better than that. So without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour. We chose Endeavour for a few reasons. One, because of this incredible endeavor NASA, SpaceX, and the United States has been on since the end of the shuttle program back in 2011. The other reason we named it Endeavour is a little more personal to Bob and I. We both had our first flights on Shuttle Endeavour, and it just meant so much to us to carry on that name. That's what we decided to go with. So we hope you enjoy that name, and once again, welcome on board.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome aboard Endeavour, the SpaceX vehicle headed to the International Space Station. Today, we accomplished the first flight off the Florida coast in quite some time, and Doug and I were really proud to have an opportunity to be a part of that. We're doing it in a brand new spaceship, a spaceship that's a lot different than its namesake Endeavour, the space shuttle, in that it has touch display screens that allow us to accomplish most of the interfacing requirements that we have. We'll have if Doug pans over and points at the display in front of me, you can see the forward view that we had during the maneuvers that we most recently did. You can look out the window. It looks like the centerline camera doesn't have a lot of content on it now. We're kind of pointed into space so that the windows can see the Earth below us. But we've got the capability to interface with the vehicle, and it's kind of interesting. There's a command. This little button over here is actually what the commands are for our displays. One thing that does get lost is there is a extensive button panel down below as well. So over on this side, we can turn the displays on and off, as well as send some commands for some contingency situations. On the other side, we have the ability to deploy chutes and things like that on entry. So we do have some buttons, but the primary interface is these displays. So nice, new, modern cockpit that we've got for our compared to our namesake, the Space Shuttle Endeavour. I'm going to migrate a little bit away from our seats here, and Doug from his seat is going to continue to try to follow me so you can tell what can be seen from the seat that he sits in. So from his seat, when he is inside in the vehicle, strapped in, this is what his view actually looks like. You can see a window off to the one side. We each have a window that we can view out and see what's going on outside. That was exciting on ascent for us to be able to see the arm rotate away from the pad, and that's when we both, I think, knew that we were going to launch today. So that was super cool. I've got one on my side as well. The hatch that we came in is the hatch that's right behind me. It is a little bit of a tight quarters, but I'm going to try to demonstrate some of the capability that we have now that we're in zero gravity. So I think I was requested to do a backflip. I'm going to kind of do a side spin, which is a little bit of a permutation on that request. So hopefully you can see what it's like to actually float in zero gravity, and Doug and I are super excited that we got the opportunity to do this again today, even before the end of May. So that was super cool. We did, it turns out, end up with one stowaway on board our vehicle when we launched today. It was not just Doug and I who accomplished the launch here. We do have an Apatosaurus aboard. We both have two boys who are super interested in dinosaurs. and we collected up all the dinosaurs between the two houses, and Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, got the vote from the boys to make the trip into space today with us. And so that was a super cool thing for us to get a chance to do for both of our sons, who I hope are super excited to see their toys floating around with us on board. I'm sure they would rather be here given the opportunity, but hopefully they're proud of this as well.
Okay, as we work our way towards one of the windows, unfortunately it's getting a little bit dark, but I don't know if Bob can pan over here. We just passed off of the coast of Newfoundland, and we're headed over to over the Atlantic right now. I don't know if you can get a good picture of that. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy that view as we pass over the Atlantic, and I think with that we will work ourselves back into the seats and wrap things up for this evening.
So Doug's there making a nice big smile for the camera. I hope you enjoyed the trip today with us on board the Dragon capsule Endeavour with our friend Trimmer, the Apatosaurus, and Doug and I. We just would like to thank SpaceX, we'd like to thank NASA, and we'd like to thank the American people for the opportunity today. And we're really proud of the entire team that was able to accomplish human spaceflight again from the Florida coast. Just a wonderful experience. Doug and I are just so proud to be a part of it, and just want to thank everybody who gave us this opportunity and worked so hard to make this happen today.
So with that, I think it'll be good night from Capsule Endeavour. Good night to everyone at NASA, at SpaceX, and the United States, and congratulations to the teams that got us into orbit. And we're looking forward to seeing Chris Cassidy and his Russian colleagues on board the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
Good night, Megan and Theo.
And Karen and Jack.
I did just want to make sure that for solidarity purposes, there's no coffee drinking or tea drinking going on down there, right?
All right, we are just 1 minute away from crew wake up. Again, we're going to be listening out to find out what song is going to get played the first time we're doing wake up music on a brand new spacecraft. It's a really cool tradition that we've had throughout human spaceflight history on the NASA side. This might be it.
Good morning, Dragon. We hope your evening aboard Endeavour was restful, and we are planning to resume all nominal communications at this time. How copy?
Night on Endeavour, and great to talk to you, Mike, and the team.
If you didn't get the song right off the bat, that was Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath. So that is your first wake-up song played on a Crew Dragon. Planet Caravan.
Well, good morning, everyone from Endeavour. We had a great night last night, got to get a little sleep, and as you can see from the video, we are just passing over Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. Beautiful day pass right now. And heading northeast up towards Central Asia, and then we'll work our way out the western part of the Himalayas there, and work our way all the way out over, looks like Japan, out into the Pacific for this particular pass. If you look closely in the video, you can see just a sliver of moon kind of halfway between the surface of the Earth and the window pane as we're flying at about 17,500 miles an hour around the planet. Getting pretty close to ISS. When we were in the night part of this orbit, we actually got to see ISS out the window, which was pretty neat to see it for the first time on this trip. Bob's panning the camera back now, just kind of taking a look at around the cabin just to see how things look after a cruise lived in Dragon for an evening. We last night, the way things went, we had our normal activation, got out of our suits, had some a little bit of dinner, then reconfigured the cabin for orbit ops. Did a couple other events, including the media event last night, and then we proceeded to get ready for bed, which in space takes a little bit longer than I think on planet Earth. We had to pull out sleeping bags and sleeping clothes and all those kinds of things. Got kind of cleaned up, and then we ended up sleeping just like we are right now, right in our chairs, which was actually a pretty comfortable night's sleep. One of the things we did yesterday was actually manually fly Crew Dragon for the first time, and I want to compliment the teams at Hawthorne. Just a spectacular job with the simulator, as the vehicle flew exactly like the simulators out in Hawthorne. So just want to thank the teams that did all the work on that particular training device, as well as all the modeling and the GNC. It really worked out well, and was a joy to fly. And I'm guessing it was the first time a space vehicle was flown with a touchscreen before. So we got that going for us. I'm going to hand the mic over to Bob.
Well, hello, folks. Welcome aboard the Dragon Capsule Endeavour. Doug and I had a good night's sleep last night. We were surprised, I think, at how well we actually slept aboard the vehicle. A little bit quieter than Space Shuttle, a little bit more, I guess, environmentally controlled, so we had didn't have CO2 pockets or things like that building up, giving us congestion, which was super awesome. He talked a little bit about the changing and going back and forth between our suits and our sleepwear and the clothes we're in now, and managing all those things. But we've managed to keep the ship pretty tidy at this point as we went through the night's activities and then got into our preparation for today. We did get our suits dried out, get them packed away into the black bags that are stowed in the outboard seats. You can, if you look closely, you can see we've got them strapped it in with the regular straps that you'd use for riding into orbit, and then over against kind of that former window location, there is a, you can see Doug's sleep bag there next to his crew notebook, and so that's how we're keeping all of our laundry constrained floating all around today. Doug mentioned the manual flying and how well the simulator matched that. I'll tell you that for the ride uphill on ascent, they just are never able to capture that at the simulator. And so I think Doug and I were talking about all the observations that we had all the way uphill. While it was an exciting ride, I think we got a couple of minor surprises just in terms of the way the vehicle is kind of moving and shaking and taking you into orbit. You can tell that it's fighting against the Earth as it makes its way into space, and that's just something a simulator can never truly simulate. We do have a friend on board with us. We introduced you to Trimmer yesterday when we did our little activity with the camera. Trimmer also had a good night's sleep. I know that both of our sons are pretty happy about that with their pet dinosaur making it into orbit and having a good night in zero gravity. We plan, once we get on board the space station, to reunite Trimmer with Earthy and plan to bring both of them back to Earth. I know that we'll get Trimmer through the safety brief and get all the education that's required so that we'll have a safe operation while we're on board the space station should anything come up that we need to be prepared for. I know that Trimmer's also looking forward to helping us out with EVA preparations just in case we need to do a spacewalk, and so we're looking forward to that as well.
2 minutes until LOS.
Let's see, I think we'll go ahead and bring the camera out a little bit and we'll show you what's going on underneath the seats on board the Dragon capsule Endeavour. We've got quite a bit of cargo that we'll be taking to the space station. We've got some hard racks as well. The hard stowage that we have can also be swapped, these hard containers here, for powered cargo, which lets us bring back refrigerated things from the International Space Station. And if you're super lucky, we don't have that this time, but I bet you some crew will take ice cream to the International Space Station with those. That'll be exciting for those crews to get to have that. We do have some emergency equipment labeled in red, which is nice to have and easy to see, as well as the other stowage bags that we have down here as well. I don't know if you were watching closely during our strap-in and insertion on the pad, but we did have the seats rotate at one point. We were down in an easier configuration to ingress the vehicle in, so when we climbed aboard, the seats were rotated down, and after we were strapped in, they rotated up our activities. And so those seats will rotate again in preparation for splashdown when we eventually come home. So if any of you all know Uncle Kirk Shireman, as we call him, you could ask him when we're coming home and make sure that he starts having a plan for us.
Well, we appreciate you having them coming on board again with us on Endeavour, and enjoyed showing you around both inside and out. The next time we'll be on video for you. We'll hopefully be on board Chris Cass in just hours. So we appreciate you stopping by and from Endeavour.
Regaining some of that video from International Space Station, Chris Cassidy given the go to open that Node 2 forward hatch. Again, he opened it a little bit earlier today to allow some of the station air to mix into the pressurized mating adapter. There it is. Now again, there's a few more hatches to open until we are able to welcome Bob and Doug aboard the International Space Station. You're looking through the hatch into the pressurized mating adapter. There's another hatch down there through the pressurized mating adapter that opens up to the International docking adapter.
Houston at 3, hey Josh,
We're getting really close to space station, so we want both the teams in Hawthorne who are able to control the Dragon spacecraft and give real-time updates to to how it's performing and how the systems are functioning. We want them to be completely synced up with the International Space Station.
And speaking of the space station, we're getting some live views inside of Node 2. Small corridor that's now exposed. Chris opened up the hatchway on Node 2 to open that up and begin circulating air through it. And there we can see him floating once again into screen. Or actually, that looks like Russian cosmonaut and a cancer treatment to a number of very specialized diseases like Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So a lot of this work being done on board the International Space Station, not just to learn more about flying in space, but to benefit life back down here on Earth. But we're getting some cool views inside the space station right now. Let's go down to Gary in Houston, check in with the station team. They're doing some final work to get the station configured for this approach and docking. Over to you, Gary.
Thanks, Dan. That's right. A lot has already happened. We are right on the timeline, ready to receive Bob and Doug here at the International Space Station. You're getting a look from the inside of the space station at the forward end, right where Chris Cassidy is, down that hatchway. That's where Bob and Doug are going to be docking shortly. The International Space Station itself is also being configured for Bob and Doug's arrival. Attitude has been switched to proximity operations, and the solar array joints, the solar alpha rotary joints, are being configured.
Clear now on the big loop. How us?
Wonderful to hear. I have you loud and clear as well. Station SpaceX, comm check on big loop.
SpaceX International Space Station from Expedition 63. Wonderful to hear all of your voices there in Hawthorne. Congratulations and good luck to everybody today.
Thank you so much. Great to hear your voice as well. Dragon SpaceX on big loop. Burn complete. Nominal burn.
Copy, nominal burn on the big loop.
Commanded a manual hold. That's to perform a manual piloting test. There is a very nice shot of the Dragon vehicle from cameras aboard the space station. You just saw one of the Draco thrusters there firing, just to keep it in that hold attitude, flying right in front of the station.
We're watching the vehicle do its stair-step maneuver up to our altitude, and Yvonne and I could see, we were looking out the cupola window, we saw it very far away, about 19, 20 kilometers, and then it got brighter and brighter and bigger, and it struck me that that little tiny dot was going to be fixed to a piece of metal that was about 15 meters from where I was standing, so to speak. And then they came up to our same altitude and started coming directly in on the docking axis. And I had the camera out at one particular point, and I cracked open the window to get a picture, and I realized that inside that spacecraft were two of my colleagues and friends, and they're going 17,500 miles an hour, and we're going 17,500 miles an hour, and we are bringing these two vehicles together with a computer and them backing it up, and I could monitor this process on the telemetry. And so from a technical nature, I was pretty amazed at the whole thing, just realizing what was happening. But then you fold into that the historic aspect of the whole day, and what it means to America, what it means to our nation's space program, what it means to international cooperation and commercial cooperation. It just was kind of awe-inspiring, to be honest with you. And then that was a fleeting moment back to the operations, but it was pretty impressive day, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Mission feels so much more funky and futuristic, with everything from the capsule's look to the touch screens, the technology, the suits. Does this feel like the Jetsons?
From a futuristic standpoint, I think, SpaceX, from the very start of that company, has tried to be very forward-thinking and cutting edge, and it is one of the factors that went into the design of the Crew Dragon and our spacesuits and everything about the vehicle.
All right, so our manual flight test has been completed. We're standing by for them to now resume approach 1, so to move in from that waypoint 1, we're already inside of the keep out sphere at this point. Dragon's holding just 176 meters from the space station.
Thanks, Dragon. That completes the manual piloting demonstration. I only had to twist Doug's arm for 2 or 3 minutes to get him to allow me to deactivate the piloting controls. SpaceX Dragon on the big loop for the handling qualities. It flew just about like the Sim, so my congratulations to the folks in Hawthorne. That flew really well, very crisp. It was a little sloppier and wide, just like we saw in the sim, but all the other axes, as well as closure and opening, were all just as per.
Dragon SpaceX on Big Loop. The ground will be resuming approach shortly. We do plan to hold briefly at waypoint 2, so reminder that crew visors down are not required until the ground is preparing to command the final approach.
Thanks, Dragon. We copy. We'll hold at waypoint 2 for a pause, and then we'll get our visors then once you command.
We copy.
Pretty cool view of the International Space Station from Dragon. This would actually be overlaid, or rather their controls would be overlaid on the displays on top of this view, and we got to see some pretty cool views from behind. Actually, there's a view right there. You can see the station on their displays.
Getting a great look at the space station itself. The docking port is right in the center of our screen. You can see another spacecraft currently docked to the space station, the Japanese HTV spacecraft currently docked. Looks like we're getting a shadow cast. We are just 60 meters away, continuing to close in, just about 40 meters to go until we're at that hold point. Should get there in just over 2 minutes. Meanwhile, teams in Hawthorne and in Houston doing their internal go, no go for docking. They're going to get all the teams pulled. Once everyone's go, we'll be able to give Dragon the final go-ahead for the vehicle to autonomously fly in and dock with the International Space Station. Should be coming up on waypoint 2 arrival in just about 1 minute, 45 seconds. At this point, it'll be 20 meters away from that docking port. The International Docking Adapter number 2 attached to pressurized mating adapter number 2 at the very forward end of the Harmony module.
Right there on the, right around the center, you can see the forward hatch. It's got a window in it. You can see a couple of handles, and there's some features that look sort of bronze-ish. Those are the pedals that we were talking about earlier as part of the soft capture system. So pretty wild, too, to see. We're so close that we're getting shadows from the station on Dragon. Wow.
And we're getting these views of Dragon's approach from 2 cameras that are right next to that docking adapter. And the movement's a little jarring at times. These cameras are being commanded by a person at the Cronus console in Mission Control Houston, and they send some very basic function commands to the camera, which it then executes automatically. And so they're continuing to follow Dragon in, so we do thank them for their diligence to give us these views of this historic moment as we are just less than 30 meters away from docking.
Right above the NASA meatball logo, you can see 3 of the service section Draco thrusters.
That's right, 12 in all, so 4 of those clusters spread around the vehicle, used for a lot of the attitude control and any small translational maneuvers like we just watched Bob and Doug execute with their second manual flight test.
Yeah, and actually oriented in a way, too, where if you were to lose some of those thrusters, you still have redundancy and control in those axes. That's part of the reason why they're sort of at the angles that they are.
All right, so we should be getting to waypoint 2 right now. So it looks like we do have that hold.
Dragon SpaceX on Big Loop. The ground is go for approach 2. We will be enabling the resume shortly. As a reminder, ensure your visors are closed prior to Dragon's departure from the waypoint. And once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted. And for your awareness, we have sunset in a little less than 8.5 minutes.
Doug on spacecraft confirming their go for docking. They're going to put down their visors. Got some instructions there about the crew hands-off point that we had talked about earlier. That's a point where we don't want the crew issuing any commands to the vehicle. It's about just about 2 meters away from the docking adapter. I believe the number is about 1.7 meters.
Copy steps 3 and 4.
Next Dragon on the Big Loop. Our visors are down.
Copy, visors down.
Visors down. We should see the final approach resume.
Dragon on the Big Loop, we are inbound from approach 2.
Copy, inbound.
Mission copy.
And we're going to be racing that sunset. The approach has resumed. Dragon closing in. We're inside 20 meters. And yeah, that crew hands-off point should come up in about 3 minutes or so. Right before we get that final docking, it comes about 20 seconds prior, or just about 2 meters away from the station still. And that's just the crew not issuing any abort commands. At that point, it would be too late. And so any aborts would be executed automatically by Dragon itself. So we're closing in at less than 1/10 of a meter per second at this point.
You can see the service section Draco is just doing all these very small, minor attitude corrections. Really, the autonomous docking system at work, making sure that the vestibule and the soft capture system is lined up with IDA2. It's the International Docking Adapter. You can see much more clearly there the hinge mechanism for the nose cone. Those 4 black circles are the forward bulkhead Dracos, not to be used at this time. And then of course the pedals of the soft capture system. Wow.
Dragon on the Big Loop, we're inside 10 meters. We do not make out the docking target, but we do see the outline.
We copy and concur, 10 meters.
Right, we're less than 10 meters away. Again, we're closing at that rate of less than 1/10 of a meter per second. We should be just about 1 minute 45 seconds away from docking.
There is a center line camera right in that middle, so you can see where the forward hatch is, and right in the middle of that there's a window and there's a center line camera that is aligned with the center of the vehicle and the center of the docking mechanism. So that is what the autonomous docking system is using to line up with sort of a crosshatch.
As far as the docking was concerned, Dragon flew pretty similar to Shuttle. It had very similar characteristics. The automation would have did make the same corrections that I think either Bob or I would have as we were coming in. And the thing that really stood out to both of us, and we mentioned it as soon as we docked, is we didn't feel the docking. It was just so smooth, and then we were docked, which in Shuttle you felt a little bit of a jolt, nothing real heavy, but you felt it. And we asked the guys on board station the same question, and they said we didn't feel it either, which is typical, more typical. But anyway, that really, really surprised me. So that either just the velocities or the strength of the docking mechanism really absorbed any inertia as we came into dock, and it was pretty neat that we couldn't feel anything at all on board Endeavour.
Hands-off point, the chopped crew hands-off point, 1 meter to go. Soft capture complete.
Dragon. Soft capture confirmed. Stand by for retraction and docking.
Yeah, and so the next step here is once the soft capture ring is retracted, there are 12 latches that we refer to as hard capture latches. Those are what will really create that pressure-tight seal between the Dragon spacecraft and the International Space Station. And we'll get confirmation of hard capture, and the crew, of course, aboard have this information on their displays.
Meanwhile, inside the capsule, Bob and Doug also standing by.
Dragon SpaceX docking sequence is complete.
Dragon, we copy docking complete to say that it's been a real honor to be just a small part of this 9-year endeavor since the last time the United States spaceship has docked with the International Space Station. We have to congratulate the men and women of SpaceX at Hawthorne, McGregor, and at Kennedy Space Center. Their incredible efforts over the last several years to make this possible cannot go overstated. I'd also like to thank Kathy Leaders and her team of the Commercial Crew Program of NASA. An outstanding job by everyone. Last, I'd like to thank the men and women of the National Aeronautics and Space Agency. This is an incredible time to be at NASA. 3 new vehicles to be flown, continuing mission in low Earth orbit, and then to the moon and Mars. We thank you again and congratulate you.
Dragon arriving. Crew of Expedition 63 is honored to welcome Dragon and the Commercial Crew Program to welcome aboard the International Space Station. Bob and Doug, glad to have you as part of the crew.
Okay, happy. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Endeavour, this is Houston. Bob and Doug, welcome to the International Space Station after your spectacular rendezvous and docking of the first Crew Dragon vehicle. For the first time since the retirement of the Space Shuttle, you have completed a historic ride to the ISS and have opened up a new chapter in human space exploration. On behalf of the flight control teams here in Houston and in Hawthorne, California, and to our SpaceX colleagues, bravo on a magnificent moment in spaceflight history and on the start of a new journey that has changed the face of space travel in this new era of space transportation. Bob and Doug, good luck, and we look forward to working with you on board.
Bob and Doug, we here at SpaceX are honored to have been part of ushering in this new era of human spaceflight. On behalf of the SpaceX and NASA partnership, congratulations on a phenomenal accomplishment and welcome to the International Space Station.
Well, thank you, Anna. We appreciate all the good words and everyone thanking us, but it truly was a magnificent effort by the entire team, the SpaceX team, the NASA team, and a team across America who was able to pull this off and bring human spaceflight again to our nation. Thanks for everything. Happy to be aboard.
The No. 2 forward hatch is open.
Looks like you guys are on board. Welcome aboard, I guess, the integrated space station now, huh?
Indeed. Thank you so much. We're excited to be here.
This is Mission Control, Houston. If you're just joining us, you're getting a look inside the Crew Dragon. That was Bob Bankett seated on the right side, the pilot seat, or the Joint Operations Mission Commander seat for Demo 2, for the pressure to equalize between the International Space Station and Bob and Doug. Just 2 hatches, really, separating them from the inside of the orbiting complex. Aboard International Space Station, Commander Chris Cassidy, really at this point just waiting for good leak checks between Station and Dragon.
And Dragon SpaceX, I was told to proceed with you. Can you please repeat your last?
Yeah, Anna, just wanted to double check with you to make sure you had copied our last and that we were still good on that estimated time.
This is Mission Control Houston. Chris Cassidy opens the hatch to the International Docking Adapter, 11:37 a.m. Central Time. Station and Dragon flying together, 267 statute miles over the South Pacific. This is a view from the camera at the forward end of Dragon.
Until Dragon hatch opened, and the APAS hatch was just opened.
Again, 11:37 a.m. Central. The hatch to the International Docking Adapter was open. You see Chris Cassidy there poking his head in. That's the camera at the forward end of the Dragon. Now only one hatch separating Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley from Chris Cassidy, who you're seeing here from those Dragon views. Evolution in the foreground there. Chris Cassidy continuing the prep work for opening up the hatch there. Again, the pressurized mating adapter hatch you see there in the foreground is open. The APAS hatch to the International Docking Adapter is open. Just one more, and that's the hatch of Dragon, the Crew Dragon vehicle.
Houston Station, Space to Ground 2. Station is ready for Dragon hatch equalization.
Station Houston copies. Dragon call ready when you're able.
Houston Dragon, go ahead.
And Dragon Houston, just looking to confirm that you're ready for hatch equalization.
We are ready as long as SpaceX is ready.
We're continuing to equalize the pressure of that last hatch. Behind that hatch is Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the Crew Dragon spacecraft. We are moments away from opening the hatch and welcoming them aboard the International Space Station. Of the hatch opening between the International Space Station and the Crew Dragon. There's the hatch to the Crew Dragon. Seeing Doug Hurley through the glass on the other side. And there's Bob Behnken. And with that, the hatch is open.
SpaceX Dragon on the big loop. The hatch is open and Crew Dragon ISS arrival through the hatch opening.
Of space smell in the vestibule, and then when we've got that hatch open, you could tell it was a brand new vehicle with smiley faces on the other side, smiley face on mine. Wonderful to see, my friends, and wonderful to see a brand new vehicle.
We have Bob Behnken from SpaceX Demo 2 mission entering the International Space Station. Followed by Doug Hurley.
And Station Houston, we see you, and it's a great-looking photograph.
Thank you, Chris. It's good to see you. And welcome to Bob and Doug. I will tell you, the whole world saw this mission, and we are so proud of everything you have done for our country, and in fact, to inspire the world.
We sure appreciate that, sir. It's obviously been our honor to be just a small part of this. We have to give credit to SpaceX, the Commercial Crew Program, and of course NASA. It's great to get the United States back in the crewed launch business, and we're just really glad to be on board this magnificent complex.
Well, we have some VIPs with us here, and I'm sure they have some questions that they'd like to ask you, but I have one of my own before I turn it over. And I just wanted to find out if you guys got any sleep on your way up there the last, I'd say, I got 19 hours. Did you guys get any sleep?
I think a lot of folks in Hawthorne were asking the same question, sir, but we did get probably a good 7 hours or so opportunity for sleep, and I did succeed at sleep, and Doug did as well. So the first night is always a little bit of a challenge, but the Dragon was a slick vehicle, and we had good airflow, and so we had an excellent evening, and just excited to be back in low Earth orbit again.
The eyes of the world are upon you, and everyone is proud of you. All of America is watching you, and today and yesterday represent big days. We're looking at a decade since we've had American astronauts launched on an American ship from American soil. And I can tell you, I sat with my wife and kids in our living room watching on TV yesterday, and I suspect we did what just about everyone watching did, including both of you, which is held our breath as it took off. And we're glad to see you've landed safely. We're glad to see you've docked. And so let me ask you, that Dragon is an amazing vehicle. How does she handle?
It flew just like it was supposed to. It was we had a couple opportunities to take it out for a spin, so to speak, once after we got into orbit last night, and again today about 20 minutes before we docked. And my compliments to the folks back at Hawthorne and SpaceX for how well it flew. It is exactly like the simulator, and we couldn't be happier about the performance of the vehicle.
What do you guys hope to accomplish in your time on the International Space Station?
Well, while we're on board the space station, of course, with the new spacecraft, we do hope to put her through her paces, and so the good ship Endeavour is going to get a lot of checkout over the next week or two here, and hopefully we'll be able to declare her operational, and Doug and I will be able to take some burden off of Chris and his crewmates, Ivan and Anatoly, so that we can keep the space station operating at its peak possibilities. So we're looking forward to contributing any way that we can, and like I said, trying to keep space station as productive as possible.
And I have to say, this launch and y'all's docking is a powerful inspiration of what we can do when we come together, of the power of unity, the power of ingenuity. And so I guess the last question I would ask you is since you have the opportunity to address, in particular, all the young people in America, what would you tell them in terms of what we can do when we can come together?
You know, that's a great question. 9 years ago, just about exactly 9 years ago, we docked with Atlantis on STS-135, the last flight of the Space Shuttle program, a 30-year program. And folks at SpaceX, folks at NASA, the Commercial Crew Program put their heads together and worked diligently year after year, making sacrifices, working hard, and then 9 years later, American launch capability was restored, and this is just one effort that we can show for the ages to kind of inspire, especially the young people in the United States, to reach for these lofty goals and work hard, and look what you can accomplish.
Thank you, gentlemen. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. We have another very special guest here that represents the Johnson Space Center. And, of course, it's my good friend from the House of Representatives, Dr. Brian Babin. And I want to be clear, he also
was a big part of the NASA Transition Authorization Act, which gave us the continuity of purpose to make this happen today. So, gentlemen, here is Dr. Brian Babin from the state of Texas.
Thank you. It's great to be with you guys. I was at the launch yesterday. I just want to say a huge congratulations. And it was just an enormous achievement. I just want to say thank you for you guys. Really appreciate what you're doing for America. And the crew that's already been up there, Chris, and your two fellow Russians, to give you a great big thank you as well. The Dragon handled very well, but I want to see how it compares with the space shuttle. If one of you would address that, I would appreciate it.
Well, thank you, sir. It certainly has been a long endeavor for us and our namesake spacecraft. We're proud to have her on board the International Space Station after all that the teams around the country and across America have done to get us here today. As far as a comparison with the space shuttle, both Doug and I took a few minutes while we were accomplishing the approach and docking to, in our spare time, talk a little bit about it. We were surprised a little bit at how smooth things were off the pad. The space shuttle is a pretty rough ride heading into orbit with the solid rocket boosters. And our expectation was, as we continued with the flight into second stage, that things would basically get a lot smoother than the space shuttle did. But Dragon was huffing and puffing all the way into orbit, and we were definitely driving or riding a Dragon all the way up. And so it was not quite the same ride, the smooth ride, as the space shuttle was up to MECO. A little bit less G's, but a little bit more alive is probably the best way I would describe it. Anything else, Doug?
No. Sounds good.
Bob, what is MECO?
Sorry, I have to apologize for actually using the term MECO. It's a little bit confusing between the space shuttle and the Dragon vehicle. So it's a main engine cutoff is what MECO stands for. Those happened at different times in flight for the two vehicles. For the space shuttle, that was when you were all the way in orbit. For Dragon, that was just a little bit after 2 minutes. And then we had the single engine cutoff for second stage when we achieved orbit. So that time under the single engine under Dragon with one engine was more of an experience than the shuttle was for that 6.5 minutes or so that we were under that second stage motor.
Well, I would just like to say, in fact, Doug, did you have something you wanted to add there? I met your mother and father yesterday, Doug, and great folks. They're very, very proud of their son.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hopefully they enjoyed the launch. I know for parents, it can probably be pretty nerve-wracking for them to experience a launch. This was their third, so I'm glad everything went okay, and hopefully it was a good show. We haven't obviously heard or seen any video yet, but we're looking forward to seeing the launch replayed sometime.
I can assure you that it was a great show. The wonderful liftoff and everything going without a hitch. So I just want to say God bless both of you. Thank you so very much. Bless the rest of you folks up there as well. We thank our Russian partners. And thank you, Chris. Y'all are all in our prayers, and we're looking forward to seeing you successfully complete your mission and back safely on Earth. God bless.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just so you guys are aware, the show was in fact spectacular. The ratings on NASA TV beat everyone else. Not just some of them, it beat all of them, and that includes yeah. Just so everybody is aware, the whole world saw this. It trended #1 on Twitter. It was the #1 thing talked about on social media in general. This was an amazing moment, and it represents a transition in how we do space flight from the United States of America. NASA is not going to purchase, own, and operate rockets and capsules the way we used to. We're going to partner with commercial industry for access to low Earth orbit. And those partnerships are going to enable our providers to get customers that are not NASA and drive down our costs. And we're going to have numerous providers that are competing on cost and innovation and safety. And we're going to have more access to low Earth orbit than ever before. And this business model, now that it's been proven on commercial resupply of the International Space Station, now commercial crew to the International Space Station, this model is going to apply, and I know Senator Cruz has this near and dear to him, when we go to the moon. And of course, when we go to the moon, it's going to be done because of the great people here at the Johnson Space Center and so many other centers across the United States of America. But when we go to the moon, we're going to land on the surface of the moon with commercial landers. And of course, we're very proud of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program being managed right here out of the Johnson Space Center as well, so that we can take small payloads to the surface of the moon. And all of this is leading up to an amazing day where we have humans living and working for long periods of time on the surface of the moon, but doing it with a purpose. And that purpose, of course, is to go to Mars. Humanity is going to explore more and be able to go further than ever before because of the public-private partnerships. We all know that if the government is creating the demand and the government is creating the supply, we will always be limited. But when we have partners that are interested in exploring commercially and doing the things that are necessary, to get capital investment, then we're all going to end up better. So I want to just say the whole world saw this. This is a new era in human space flight, and we are so grateful for the service of not just our 2 astronauts that embarked on this mission, but the 100,000 plus people that participate in it, in this mission. Everything from the suppliers to the main contractors, to the NASA team, the SpaceX team. What an amazing day for our country and, in fact, for the world. I'm going to turn it over for a second to my deputy, Jim Morehard, who's been a great deputy at NASA.
Gentlemen, congratulations. You know, Jim's mentioned going to the moon. And yesterday and today, one, you've inspired the Artemis generation, which is our next generation. And that's what this is about. It's really bringing the children that we've got and our grandchildren forward so they'll be the ones that are going into deep space. This is the dawn of a new era, and we just thank you for being at the beginning of it. Thank you so much.
It was absolutely our pleasure, but it's just a huge team effort across the board from SpaceX to NASA that made this all happen. We were just the lucky guys that got to fly the rocket yesterday.
I have a question for Chris Cassidy. Our crew here decided to be about 3 days late. You got to work them overtime, I presume, now to get them caught up on all the activities that they missed out on. Any plans for them?
Well, the day they missed out on was a good one for them to skip. It was Saturday house cleaning, but I took care of it for them. We'll catch up next weekend. But in all seriousness, we've got a few things to take care of tonight. Make sure we're all safe and we know the plan in case something bad happens. And then we're looking forward to some operational stuff later in the month. Maybe we'll get outside and do some spacewalks. And our efforts in these coming weeks will be in that effort. So we're all super excited to have 2 more crewmates to the Expedition 63 team.
Awesome. And of course, here in Houston, this is the home of the astronaut office, and the Johnson Space Center is led by Mark Geyer, and I'm going to turn it over to Mark for a few comments.
Thank you, Jim. Hey, it's great to see all of you there. Good to see you, Bob and Doug. And but I also want to thank Anatoly and Iman and of course Chris for what you guys have been doing since you all arrived. And I know there's been a ton to do, and you've been really busy, and I appreciate that. So I also like this visual of our international partnership. We have had a tremendous partnership with Roscosmos, and we will continue to do so. But it is nice to see crew arrive from this side of the space station. So that was pretty cool after 9 years. I did have one question for Chris, though. What might you do to ensure that Bob and Doug stay longer? Do you have any strategy there?
Well, we'll slow down the rate of which I'm eating food, and maybe we can stretch out our consumables a little bit. But that's a great question. We'll have to come up with some conniving scheme here in the next few days.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys. Look forward to greeting the three of you eventually back in Ellington after your work is complete. Thank you.
And, of course, Mark Geyer has an amazing deputy, Vanessa Weiss, if you'd like to come and say a few words.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, guys. You look really good. I just want to say on behalf of everybody here, we just want to thank you. It was an amazing launch, and we love seeing the docking. You guys all look really good. Just thank you for all that you're doing, and we can't wait for you to return, but not too soon. Station wants you to get a lot of work done, so looking forward to all of that. But thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Vanessa. We appreciate that.
All right, we also have with us Steve Jerzik, who is the Associate Administrator for the agency. For people who don't know what that is, that, of course, is the Chief Operating Officer of the agency. But he also ran the flight readiness review for this mission. He did really an amazing job, and I can't say enough about his leadership at the agency. Steve, if you'd like to say a few words, ask a few questions.
Hey guys, it is just great to see you all on the station. I can't tell you how my adrenaline shut down when you guys opened the hatch. I mean, I've just been on edge ever since yesterday, and the weather cleared. I can't tell you how great it's been to see you on station. It has been a team effort. I felt like the last 2 years I've kind of been part of the team, working through issues, and it's been a heck of a year and a half with Demo 1. And the in-flight abort test, and working through issues like parachutes and the escape system, and I just could not be more proud of the team for getting to this point. It's amazing, and you obviously have been part of that. I really appreciate you all showing up in Washington, D.C. at our reviews, and because the last thing we do at those reviews is look at you all, because you guys are the risk takers, and make sure you're okay with where we are and where we're headed. So I really, really appreciate that. I really appreciate your active participation in that. And I could not be more, like I said, more proud of the team. And congratulations. And it is awesome to see you guys on station.
Well, thank you, sir. We're just proud to be a part of the team that got to bring spaceflight back to the Florida coast. I appreciated the comment earlier that it was nice to see a vehicle come to the forward portion of the space station. But I'll tell you what, that's the only way Doug and I know how to do it. So thanks to the team for providing it to happen our way. We appreciate that.
Well, Bob and Doug, just so you're aware, I'm being given the wrap signal. Doug, did you have something to say before we wrap it up here?
Oh, no, sir. We're just happy to be here, and Chris is going to put us to work, and hopefully we will fit in and not mess too many things up.
I have no doubt that you guys are going to do amazing work. I just want you to know the president came to the launch and the vice president came to the launch. About half the cabinet was at the launch. We had members of Congress and members of the Senate from both sides of the aisle. And this was an amazing moment of unity for the nation. It was an amazing moment for the whole world to look up. We were able to have this very, very special moment where we could all look at the future and say that things are going to be brighter tomorrow than they are today. And you and the NASA team and the SpaceX team gave us that opportunity, and for that we are so, so grateful. I would also be remiss as the NASA administrator if I didn't promote what comes next. And of course, this is the beginning. We are now launching to low Earth orbit again, but we will soon be going to the moon. We will be going to the moon sustainably with commercial partners and international partners. We're going to use the resources of the moon to learn how to live and work for long periods of time. Ultimately, we're going to take all of that knowledge and we're going to go to Mars. And of course, this time when we go to the moon, we go with a very diverse, highly qualified astronaut corps that includes women, which is why we call the program Artemis, named after the twin sister of Apollo, and she, in Greek mythology, was the goddess of the moon. This is the beginning. There is so much more to come, and I'm glad that our representatives of the Johnson Space Center are here because we're going to be asking them to fund this project. And what an amazing day that you guys have given us. So thank you from not just me and the people here, but from the United States of America and people all around the world. I'm more popular on Twitter than I've ever been, and it's because of you guys. Thank you.
To the crew on the International Space Station.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Chris, we ask that you just hold your position for a few minutes. There's, of course, a number of photos we'd like to take. And then a quick note for those down here in the room. To Senator Cruz, Congressman Bobbin, Administrator Bridenstine, Director Geyer, and all of our distinguished visitors, thank you for your participation in today's historic event, and thank you for the leadership that has enabled it.
Wow, we're making history again.
Let's go.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. So rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream.
Give us a like, subscribe, and I hope you saw the moon one day. Do your worksheet, dot to dot, 1 to 100.